The Badgers are rolling with a backup quarterback, but that doesn't mean it's game over, man. Let's talk about week 2 and what to expect from Danny O'Neil.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being an everydayer. I'm your host, Ryan Herring. Today's episode, we are talking about expectations for Danny O'Neil. What can we expect from him, from the offense in his first start for the Badgers? Thoughts on the offensive line, and what can we actually learn from week 2? Thank you for being part of this. Let's get into it. Expectations for Danny O'Neil. So we know Billy Edwards isn't going to play this week. We don't fully know how long that absence is going to be. We don't fully know when he's going to be back. They're purposely a little vague on it. Hopefully, I've heard conflicting things myself. I don't know. I think if he had to play this week, he might be able to, but it makes sense to rest him. So in comes Danny O'Neil. What are the expectations for the sophomore quarterback who started all of last year as a freshman in the Mountain West Conference? I think we start here. And I mentioned it before. This staff deserves a tremendous amount of credit for going into this offseason and bringing in multiple quarterbacks that have experience. They brought in Billy Edwards, and then instead of sitting on, and just kind of saying, we're good, we brought in our quarterback, they also went and got Danny O'Neil as the insurance policy. And then they went and got Hunter Simmons. And not enough is being talked about with Hunter Simmons, who he's now on deck. Hunter Simmons is the next guy up. And they brought in multiple quarterbacks with experience to solidify this area against injury. So a lot of credit to the staff. They need to get a lot of credit for what they did, bringing in Danny O'Neil and Hunter Simmons to be behind Billy Edwards in case something happens. And something happened. Something always happens to Badgers quarterbacks. And it did. So let's talk expectations for Danny O'Neil. I think it's important to look back. I think too much is being made of last week, what he looked like and didn't look like, some of the improvisation skills, but also a few of the bad throws. I think you need to go back and look at last year with Danny O'Neil because he threw 330 passes last year. We have a large sample size with Danny O'Neil. Again, it wasn't in the Big Ten, it was in the Mountain West, but the Mountain West is a D1 program. He threw 330 passes, completed 63% of them, 2,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, 6 picks. As a freshman, a 2-to-1 interception to touchdown ratio, 63% completion rate at a lower level of football. But that also means he is playing with a lower level of offensive line, receiver, running back, so his talent around him should be higher at Wisconsin as well. It's pretty impressive. You look at what Braden Locke did last year, also stepping into a spot. Danny O'Neil had a better touchdown to interception ratio, better completion percentage, better with his feet. So what can we expect from Danny O'Neil with an entire week of reps with the ones coming in as the starter? I think there's 3 things you're going to look for. The first is I think they're going to take more advantage of his mobility. Not that Billy Edwards wasn't a mobile quarterback, but Danny O'Neil is a little quicker. He uses his legs more. You can see he's a little more comfortable running. And quite frankly, he's probably a little healthier. So expect to see rollouts. I think they're going to move the pocket, run pass options, give him the ability to get out of the pocket a little bit where his size is a bit of a detriment. Let's talk about the fact that he's 6 foot. We just went through an entire season last year with Braden Locke and his passes getting batted down because he had trouble navigating the pocket. I think you're going to get Danny O'Neil on the move a little bit more, get him out of the pocket, simplify the reads a little bit, give him some options coming across the field. And if it's not there, he can tuck it and run. I think you're going to see a little bit more of that this week. Expect to see probably more of the intermediate, crossers, mesh routes, button hooks, those kind of 10 to 20-yard type passes where I think he showed nice touch in Platteville. He doesn't have the strongest arm, so I don't know if you want those deep outs, those deep posts, the deep crossers, the 9 routes as much with Danny O'Neil. He does have the arm to hit vertical routes. Make no mistake, there will be some shots in this game because Danny O'Neil is a gunslinger and he takes shots like a cowboy at a bar. He's going to take some shots. Be aware of this Danny O'Neil experience. There's going to be some shots taken. And some of them are going to turn out well, some of them aren't. He's going to throw some 50-50 balls because I think that's part of his DNA, right? We saw that in Platteville too. He's going to give receivers the chance to make throws or to make catches. He also needs to know when to not push the envelope. There were a couple throws, not even the interception in the end zone. There was another one that was kind of across the body he's got to be careful trying to do too much, because that's the only way. Even with that, Middle Tennessee probably doesn't stay in the game, but he has to be smart, makes good decisions, one or two reads. Again, I think the playbook to be a little simpler, the reads to be a little simpler. I expect that they get him on the move. And then the last thing I want to point out, and I think it's important, he needs to be a little smarter when he's running. I think the best thing with Danny O'Neal is also the thing that could be the detriment here. He plays really hard, and he doesn't want to slide. He wants to fight for those extra yards, but he's quarterback number one now, and we don't have a great timeline on when Billy comes back. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay upright. He's got to slide, especially in a game like this where it shouldn't be a game late into the quarter. If there's an opportunity to get down and save yourself a shot from a linebacker, a safety coming downhill, you got to do it. You have to play smart in this game. So we'll see if he's able to do this. Young quarterback, he plays with moxie. When he gets out there, you can tell the juices just flow. I love this quote from Luke Fickell talking about Danny O'Neal. Quote, he has an athletic arrogance. He straddles the line of self-assurance and being cocky. I love that. I love that in my quarterback. Give me a quarterback with heart. Give me a quarterback with feet and intangibles and heart. And I feel like we can teach a lot of the rest as long as the arm's okay. And his arm's okay. I love that. But you got to know when to throttle it back a little bit. And then the moments where you have to throttle it forward. So I'm looking for a little more conservative running this week with Danny O'Neal. Again, move the pocket, get him on the move, give him some run pass options. But then when it's time to slide. When it's time to get out of bounds, get out of bounds, because you got to stay healthy now. Part of your job is to stay healthy. It's not just winning this game. Part of your job is to, right now, the captain's down below, right? The captain's Billy Edwards. He came down with scurvy on the long voyage throughout the season. He's down below. Right now, you need to man the ship and keep it on course. You need to keep the ship moving until the captain can come back up ready to go. So that's part of his job. Be smart. Be smart. I think there's going to be more intermediate timing routes that are going to play up to his game a little bit more. But I am excited to see Danny O'Neal this week. I think he's going to be good. He is a player that, again, credit to the staff, was a solid starting quarterback last season. So, yeah, credit to them. And then I think it's worth noting, number 3 quarterback now is Hunter Simmons, right? So, if anything, God forbid, I don't even want to talk about it. Let me knock on some wood here. If anything were to happen to our guy here, Danny O'Neal, Hunter Simmons would be the next guy up. And the very quick primer on Hunter Simmons, good size, a really good arm, actually, but not as mobile. Also had injuries last year, came from Southern Illinois. Solid, like it's a really good number 3. But let's keep Danny O'Neal healthy. I think that's the biggest key here. Let's get a couple more questions or thoughts. Brian Shetty says 200 pass yards, 25 rush yards, and 2 touchdowns. That'd be a great year, or great game for him. I think they're going to really, really lean on the running game against Middle Tennessee. They're really going to emphasize getting that going, putting Danny O'Neal in spots where he can pick his moments almost off play action on 2nd and 4s. I think they're going to, not just because it's his first start, but because of some of the issues on the offense line, they're going to really try to limit those 3rd and long, 2nd and long. So expect a lot of running game. But yeah, 200 yards, 25 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. I think that's perfect. Greg Linscomb, coaches must give Danny some easy completions early to make him comfortable. I agree. Downstream finally made a live chat. Yes, dude, I love it. I know you all love the negativity I provide. I like to think negative because when something positive happens, it's a surprise. I think you're going to like this week, Downstream, and I appreciate you being in here, man, for sure. All right, let's take a quick second, friends of the show. We're going to come back. Let's talk offensive line, where I'm frustrated, what I think could happen this week. Let's go into that spot because it is an interesting one and slightly terrifying. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Monarch Money. You don't have to do everything yourselves. I think sometimes guys, gals, we try to do everything ourselves, writing up budgets on Post-it notes. There's tools out there that can make your life easier, make you more efficient, and make you better with money. Monarch Money is designed to make you stronger financially, to help you reach your goals, to see where all your money's going. And whether you're a data nerd that wants to see it all in spreadsheets, or you're a visual guy like me that wants to see it broken down in like charts and pie graphs, Monarch Money does all that. Plus, they bring everything you have into one spot. So you don't have to have 7 tabs open when you're trying to figure out your budget. You can plan goals, make priorities, see where all your money's going, track your investments and your credit cards and things you have to pay off. It is like a personal CFO and an incredible visual dashboard. I mean, it's almost like if your financial expert met Picasso and put the two together. It's phenomenal. I use it. My family uses it. I cannot recommend it enough. Right now, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKDOWNCollege at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKDOWNCollege for half off your first year. Today's episode also brought to you by the incredible guys and gals over at FanDuel. NFL is right around the corner, literally almost here. And FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And I've never seen this much before. You'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I've never seen them give 300 away before. I love using FanDuel because it fits exactly how I like to bet. It's simple, it's easy. Plus, it has all the options you want: parlays, futures, teasers, spreads. It's all there on FanDuel, the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network and the official sports book of the Herrings household. That's what I use because it's simple, it's easy. And when you win, you get those payouts really quickly. So if you're ready to play, download FanDuel app today using FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode also brought to you by our incredible friends over at SupplyHouse. If you have any type of big projects going on and you need plumbing, HVAC, electrical, this is the place to get it. The best brands in the business, real-time inventory, and honest lead times keep you from punting your project, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. That's a game changer. Plus, their part tool finder tools and 3D schematics can help you save hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free Trade Master program today. Score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com. Sign up for free. Use promo code SHCollege for 5% off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, let's get back into this. Let's talk offensive line. Plus, taking your comments here, you notice I take a deep pause here. Offensive line's frustrating to me. I don't fully know what they're going to do this week. I don't know if it's going to be flipping Malman over or Brunner, if it's going to be Heinzen again, a combination of the above. If that means Mandel moves out to guard, right? Because if you flip Malman over, maybe you need to move Mandel out to tackle, out to right tackle. I'll start by saying this, and then I'm not going to dwell on it because there's no point in dwelling on it. I don't think the staff did a great job with offensive line this year. I know it's not easy. Listen, I know it's not easy, but your depth should not be this scary when one injury happens. And Kevin Haywood's a massive injury, and that's not on the staff. And if Kevin Haywood's playing, this all looks a lot better. It should not be this massive of a blow when you lose one guy on the offensive line, because you should go into the season expecting to lose a guy or two, because that happens to most schools most years. The Badgers have been unusually lucky, actually, the last couple of years on the offensive line. You usually don't make it through a season without injuries. And the fact that one injury has caused this cascading effect, this cascading almost set of failures is, to me, I'll just call it legacy. Like I gave the staff a ton of credit for what they did in the quarterback room this offseason. They didn't do a good enough job insulating themselves on the offensive line, and we're already seeing it. And we're 1 week into the season. So all that being said, like I said, I'm not going to dwell on that. It is what it is. All that being said, this week, what do we see? I think they're going to try a couple different bodies. Luke Fickell talked about it, shuffling the offensive line. It's going to happen. There's going to be people in different spots. I've heard a couple people talk about Malman to left tackle, what that might look like. If that means Mandel to right tackle, I'll just be honest, I don't love that. A lot of it deals to me with Emerson Mandel. I don't want him to keep having to move around. I would like him to be settled in at guard, where I think that's his best spot. I think that's where he could be a future all Big Ten type of player. And to keep shuffling him around, they've done it in practice. Now he's back at guard. I think he needs those reps at guard, moved him back to tackle. I think it might set him up for a rough spot, because I don't think he's a natural tackle. And I don't want him to get beaten down's the wrong word, but maybe to lose confidence or to lose some of his development because he's playing at a spot he shouldn't play. Is still a really young player. I would rather keep Riley Malman at right tackle, and maybe Leighton Nelson's the answer. Maybe you give Heinzen some more reps. Maybe you kick Brunner out. I would prefer to leave Mandel alone, but I'll also acknowledge that I'm not in those rooms. I'm not in the practices. And I'll also acknowledge there's probably not a great answer. Every answer is probably flawed in some way. So I think it's fair to acknowledge that. Young guys, I had a couple of people ask me about, hey, what do you think about Roski, Coverly, Davenport, any of these guys kind of stepping into the roles maybe later this year, especially with Roski and Davenport. I love both those dudes. Like I love Big Mike Roski, Davenport. Both have been on the show. I think both are potential future starters for this team that could be really good. I said it in our Discord. Mike Roski is built like a caveman that had a Bowflex. Like he looks. I think in a couple years he could be a monster. And then Davenport, athletic, long, really like his testing measurables. I know Blas likes him, but I think it's early. It's hard to pencil either of those guys in at tackle year one. Now, Coverly, he was here last year, redshirt freshman. I know the coaching staff likes him. Brady Collins loves him. He's a guy I would feel pretty comfortable stepping in at guard. So if you are thinking about moving a Brunner out, if you are thinking about moving a Mandel out, I do feel relatively comfortable. I think it's still a year early, right? It's still a lot to expect for a redshirt freshman to come in and play against the schedule. But I think he could step in and play this year and be fine. He is built kind of like a beer fridge with some arms and legs. Like he can be a pile driving guard, I think. Now there'll be learning curve. It is what it is. I like him a lot. And I like those other young guys a lot too. I just don't think they're going to be ready year one. So a bit of a rambling way to loop it back to I don't think there's a great answer. And this might be something the entire year is a bit of a problem because there's other guys online. Renfro is a guy who's had a lot of injury issues. You're going to lean a lot on a guy like Kerry Kadonko who could play multiple guard spots or the center. Ryan Corey might need to step up this year. Hopefully Leighton Nelson. Yeah, I'm a little worried about offensive line and a little frustrated that there wasn't a little more emphasis this offseason to put that together. Okay, let's questions, comments, thoughts. Let's get some of these in here. Jan Volk says Middle Tennessee seems to be the same caliber opponent that he played last year. He should be fine. Yeah, I think he will be fine. Ryan Hepting says last night's show is absolute gold. Fact or fiction was awesome. Dude, thank you, Ryan. Thank you for tuning into that one. This one, we're going to do that every week. Hopefully it'll be Tuesdays, but it's going to be a ton of fun. Artificial Badger says, can we get him to not throw across the field late? That would be the goal. Speaking, going back to Daniel Neal, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to have to live with some of it. You're going to have to live, if you have a guy who's a little bit gunslinger, and Badger fans as Packer fans know this with the quarterbacks y'all have had. I'm a Niners fan, but if you're going to have a bit of a gunslinger, you're going to have to live with a couple of those throws occasionally, especially from a young guy. But yeah, that throw was unacceptable. Can't do that. Smo on Wisconsin. Let's go. Artificial Badger says out. Billy Edwards scurvy. Yeah. Like I said, though, Daniel Neal just needs to keep the ship moving. And I think he's fully capable of doing that. Jim Mandel says, excellent game for him to start. I agree. I 100% agree. Greg Linscomb says, our offensive line must be better to help Danny out. Agree as well. Timothy Palm says, going to need to roll the pocket because the defensive ends are running around Hines. I don't think it's going to be Heinzen as much as today. And I'll also say this. I want to give Heinzen some grace as well. Like, it is his first start in Madison. It's possible a bad game got in his head a little bit. I refuse to believe he's not better than that because I don't think they would have started him if that's what they thought he would do. So I think it's a problem. I think it's something they need to get better. But I also want to give grace to a guy who's, I don't know. He just can't be that. Let's see. Jackie says the offensive line questions need to be answered before Bama. We could have a chance in that game, and the offensive line can't be a reason why we don't. That's a really good point. Like, Bama's more gettable. They look more gettable. I want to hesitate before I say they are more gettable. They look more gettable. They are more gettable. The offensive line has to play well in that game. On the road, it's still going to be a tough environment no matter what. I mean, the crowd's going to be loud whether they're booing Kalen DeBoer, right? Whether they're booing their own players or booing the Badgers, that crowd's going to be loud. The offense line has to be good in that game. So this is in that sense, this is a really good game for this offensive line to work things out, right? I don't think we're going to be able to take a ton from this game in terms of it's fixed or it looks great, but this is a great opportunity for the coaching staff to move the chess pieces around a little bit, see what they got, go back and see the film from what they did, and then really prepare for that gauntlet coming up. So yeah, the Middle Tennessee game couldn't come at a better spot. I won't walk out of this week saying we solved anything because I don't think you can, given the quality of this opponent. Middle Tennessee State, and all credit to them, they're a real program. I'm not trying to be disparaging. They're not very good. I don't know how else to transition from I'm not trying to be disparaging to that's not a very good program. But my point is, I think you can get a ton of reps and maybe figure some things out going forward without fully answering the questions coming out of this week. Brian says, "Could you see a path in which Danny plays so well that he could cause a discussion on the starter position?" I love I love quarterback controversies. I'm gonna say no. I don't think so. But I will say this: Danny O'Neil has some swagger, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays. But no, I think Billy's the unquestioned leader here. Barring some type of repeated complication from the knee injury, I don't think this is going to be a outside of fan blogs, podcasts, forums, that kind of stuff. I don't think it's going to be a real discussion this year unless Billy really struggles getting that knee healthy. Dylan says, "What's up, Ryan? What's up, Dylan? What could be considered a good game for Danny on Saturday? Stats, game management, etc." I think a good game for Danny on Saturday is something like 15 for 25, 60 something percent completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, a 2-to-1 touchdown to pick ratio. So limit the turnovers, limit the mistakes. Don't expect perfection. Like an interception in this game wouldn't shock me at all, but limit the mistakes, keep the drives moving, make the smart decisions, and then run when the opportunity is there, but get down and slide. That was a long answer. All right, let's wrap it there. Actually, downstream to ask, if Danny plays against Alabama and wins, what do you think? Oh man, if he goes down to Brian Denny and he looks good doing it, yeah, there's a discussion. I mean, let's not be naive about it. Billy's the guy, but if you take over for Billy and you finish off the game against Miami, Ohio, then you beat Middle Tennessee, and let's say you look good, and then you go to Brian Denny and win, and you're 3-0, you go to Maryland, especially if Billy's still dinged up. I don't know how it wouldn't be a discussion, right? Like, that would be interesting. Mitch James has put 45 on the board this weekend. I think they can do that. All right, we'll wrap it there on Wisconsin. Appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for tuning in. Really do appreciate all the people in the community, in the Discord, in the chats. Another show coming up later today. We got Coach coming on. We got a few other fun guests. I think a Middle Tennessee guest is jumping on as well, so we can preview their team. A lot of content coming up as always on Wisconsin. Appreciate y'all so much, and we will definitely talk later.